The grand ballroom at the St. Regis Hotel was stunning. White orchids everywhere, a live jazz band playing soft standards. Guests arrived in designer clothes, women in elegant dresses, men in sharp suits, their jewelry catching the Atlanta afternoon light. Waiters moved through the crowd with champagne and hors d'oeuvres. At the entrance, Marcus Williams stood greeting guests, his custom tuxedo fitting perfectly. He smiled wide, shook hands firmly, accepted congratulations with barely concealed pride. This was his moment, his redemption, his fresh start. But every few minutes, his eyes flickered toward the entrance. Waiting. A white Rolls-Royce Phantom pulled up to the red carpet. The ballroom entrance didn't just quiet, it stopped. Conversations died mid-sentence. The saxophone player held a note too long. Even the waiters froze, champagne glasses suspended in midair. The driver, dressed in full, formal livery, walked around to the passenger door with ceremonial precision. He opened it. A woman emerged. She wore an emerald green gown that caught the light like water. Diamond jewelry adorned her neck and wrists, not costume pieces, but the real weight of wealth. Her hair was styled in elegant waves, her makeup flawless, her skin glowing. But it wasn't her beauty that made the crowd gasp. It was what came next. 3 little boys stepped out behind her, each one identical. They wore matching white suits with tiny bow ties. Their dress shoes shined to perfection. They couldn't have been more than 2 years old. Triplets. The woman took their hands gently, and they formed a perfect picture. Mother and sons, dressed like royalty, stepping onto the red carpet as cameras flashed and whispers erupted. "Wait," someone said loudly. "Isn't that his ex-wife? The poor one? The one who couldn't have kids?" Another voice, sharp with disbelief. "How does she have triplets?" At the entrance, Marcus's champagne glass stopped halfway to his lips. His face drained of color. The woman, Maya, walked forward with her head held high, her sons chattering excitedly about the pretty party and whether there would be cake. Her eyes met Marcus's across the crowd. He looked like he had seen a ghost. She smiled, polite, calm, devastating. But to understand how we arrived at this moment, this collision of past and present, pride and vindication, we need to go back. Back to where it all began. But before I continue with this story, I need to ask you for a quick favor. Hit that subscribe button right now. Go ahead, I'll wait. Give this video a thumbs up and drop your location in the comments below. Are you watching from Atlanta, Houston, Chicago, Los Angeles, New York, London? I absolutely love knowing where these stories are reaching, and it helps me connect with you across the world. Now let me tell you about a woman named Maya. This is a story about pride and betrayal, about a man who thought he could humiliate the woman who gave him everything, not knowing that God had been quietly, carefully preparing her comeback the entire time. This is the story of how the poor, broke ex-wife became the woman who had it all. So settle in, get comfortable, because this journey is going to take us through heartbreak, through rock bottom, and straight into the sweetest vindication you've ever witnessed. Let's begin. Maya was 24 years old when she met Marcus Williams. She was working as an accountant at a mid-sized firm in Atlanta, living in a modest apartment in East Point, sending money home to her parents in Alabama every month without fail. She was the kind of woman people called good, the kind who arrived early to church, who helped neighbors without being asked, who saved her money carefully and dreamed quietly. The kind of woman who still believed that love could be simple and pure. She met Marcus at a 3-day church revival at New Birth. He was 28, tall and confident, with a smile that seemed to light up whatever room he entered. He worked in sales for Atant, but his real passion, he told her over chicken and waffles after Sunday service, was business. "I want to build something, he said, leaning forward with intensity in his eyes. "A real company, create jobs, build generational wealth, leave a legacy." Maya listened, captivated. Here was a man with vision, with ambition, with dreams that reached beyond the ordinary. Their courtship was everything she'd hoped for. Sunday services, where they sat side by side, sharing a hymnal, long walks through Piedmont Park, talking about everything and nothing. Phone calls that stretched late into the night, voices hushed so as not to wake her roommate. He made her laugh. He listened when she talked about her work, her family, her own small dreams of financial security and a happy home. After 1 year, Marcus proposed. The ring was modest. He'd saved for 3 months, he told her proudly. But to Maya, it was the most beautiful thing she'd ever seen. Their wedding was small but joyful, held at her family's church in Birmingham, with her mother crying happy tears, and his mother, Mrs. Williams, embracing her warmly, whispering, "Welcome to our family, baby girl." The early years of marriage felt like a dream. Maya cooked his favorite foods, fried chicken, mac and cheese, collard greens, and kept their small 2-bedroom apartment spotless. She continued working while Marcus moved between jobs, always searching for that perfect opportunity, that breakthrough that would launch his business dreams. She didn't mind. She believed in him. She believed in them. 2 years into the marriage, they decided to start trying for a baby. "Imagine," Marcus said one night, his hand on her belly as they lay in bed. "A son, or maybe a daughter first, then a son." Maya smiled in the darkness. "Or twin? Twins run in my family." "Even better," he laughed, pulling her close. But month after month, her period came. Year 3 arrived, still nothing. That's when the comments started. Mrs. Williams, visiting from Detroit, would stand in the kitchen and sigh loudly. "My friend Carolyn just became a grandmother for the 3rd time. Marcus, when you gonna give me my grandbaby?" "Soon, Mama," Marcus would say, but his eyes would slide toward Maya with something that hadn't been there before: doubt. By year 4, Maya had been to 3 different fertility specialists. Each time she went alone, taking time off work, sitting in sterile waiting rooms, submitting to tests and examinations that left her feeling exposed and inadequate. Each time, the results came back the same. "Everything looks normal. Keep trying." She suggested to Marcus that perhaps he should get tested too, just to be thorough, just to make sure they understood the full picture. He looked at her like she'd insulted him. "Ain't nothing wrong with me, Maya," he said, his voice sharp. "Just keep trying. Maybe you need to pray more, fast more, something." Something wrong with her. Always with her. That night, lying alone in their bed, Marcus had started working late more often. Maya pressed her hands together and whispered into the darkness, "God, what am I doing wrong?" She didn't know it yet, but she was asking the wrong question entirely. Year 5 of their marriage arrived like a slow-moving storm. Marcus's resentment was no longer hidden behind polite silences. It lived in the open now, sharp-edged and cruel. Damon's wife just had a son, he announced one Sunday after church, scrolling through Instagram on his phone. Their second kid in 3 years. Maya said nothing, focusing on fixing his plate. Kevin's girl is pregnant again. Twins this time. He looked up at her, his gaze cold. "What's wrong with you, Maya?" The question hung in the air like smoke. "I don't know," she whispered. "I'm trying." Trying ain't enough. 7 women at my job have gotten pregnant since we've been married. 7, but my own wife? He shook his head in disgust. "You got some kind of curse on you. That's what my mama says." The word hit her like a slap. It wasn't the first time he'd said it, and it wouldn't be the last. The insults came more frequently now, casual cruelties delivered over breakfast, or shouted during arguments that erupted over nothing and everything. "You're dead weight. I should have listened to my mama. She warned me about marrying you. Maybe I married the wrong woman." Maya tried everything. She visited a 4th specialist, then a 5th. She tried acupuncture. At Mrs. Williams's insistence, she went to a week-long prayer revival and fasted, drinking only water and begging God for a child. Nothing worked. Meanwhile, Marcus's business dreams were finally taking shape. He'd connected with a supplier who could provide electronics, phone accessories, wireless headphones, charging cables at wholesale prices. If he could just make one big order, he explained with the old excitement returning to his voice, he could triple his money in 6 months. "I just need capital," he said one evening, pacing their small living room. 12,000, that's all I need to start." Maya had been saving money in secret. Not because she didn't trust Marcus, she told herself, but because her grandmother had taught her that a woman should always have something put aside, something of her own. Over 4 years, through bonuses, tax returns, and countless skipped lunches, she'd saved $12,000. It was hidden in an account Marcus didn't know about, a small security blanket against an uncertain future. But somehow, he found out. "You've been hiding money from me?" His voice was dangerously quiet when he confronted her. "Your own husband? While I'm out here struggling to build something for our future." "It's not like that," Maya stammered. "I was saving it for us." "For us?" He laughed bitterly. "If you really cared about us, if you really loved me, you would invest in our future." "Once this business takes off, Maya, we'll have everything. Money for the best fertility doctors. We could even go to a clinic in California, New York. We'll have the treatments you need. We'll have everything we've been praying for." She hesitated. Every instinct told her to protect that money. It was her safety net, her independence, her only cushion against disaster. But she looked at her husband, the man she'd vowed to stand beside for better or worse, and she thought about the possibility he was painting, a successful business, enough money for treatments, a baby, finally, a baby. "Okay," she heard herself say. "Okay." Marcus's face transformed with relief and joy. He pulled her into his arms. "You won't regret this, baby. I promise. We're partners, remember? You're investing in us." He even recorded a video that night on his phone, his arm around her shoulders. "I want to thank my beautiful wife," he said into the camera, his voice warm and genuine. "Maya, you are my rock, my support system. Because of you, we're about to build an empire together. You're not just my wife, you're my business partner. I love you." Maya had smiled at the camera, hope blooming painful and bright in her chest. The business did well. Within 6 months, Marcus was making sales. Within a year, he'd rented a small storefront. Within 2 years, he had 3 employees and was talking about expanding. Money was coming in, good money. Maya waited for her share. And waited. Marcus bought new clothes, Jordan releases, designer jeans. He bought a used BMW, silver and polished to a shine. He started drinking expensive bourbon, bringing home bottles that cost more than her weekly salary. When she finally gathered the courage to ask, her voice small across the dinner table, "Marcus, what about my share? The partnership you mentioned?" He looked at her like she was speaking a foreign language. "Your share?" He set down his fork slowly. "Maya, you gave me a gift. That's what a wife does. She supports her husband. You can't give someone a gift and then ask for it back. That's not how marriage works. But you said, the video, you called me your partner. I was grateful. I still am. But the business is mine. I built it. I run it. You work in an office, Maya. What do you know about running a company?" The dismissal in his voice was absolute. Year 7 arrived. Maya was 31 years old. She'd lost weight she couldn't afford to lose. There were permanent shadows under her eyes. She moved through her days like a ghost, going to work, coming home, cooking meals that Marcus barely touched, lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling. One evening, she came home early and heard Marcus on the phone in the bedroom. "I know, Mama. I know. Yes, I'm tired too. A man needs a son. A man needs a wife who can give him a legacy." Maya stood frozen in the hallway, her purse slipping from her shoulder. That night, after a dinner eaten in silence, Marcus spoke. "I want a divorce." 5 words, delivered as casually as a weather report. Maya's fork clattered against her plate. "What?" 7 years, Maya. 7 years of nothing. I can't waste any more of my life waiting for you to be a real wife. Marcus, please. I already talked to a lawyer. The papers will be ready next week. Sign them, and we can both move on. She fell to her knees, literally fell, her hands reaching for his. "Please don't do this. We can keep trying. We can see more doctors. We can..." He pulled his hands away like her touch burned him. "I can't stay married to a woman who can't give me kids. I just can't." And with that, he walked out of the room, leaving Maya on the kitchen floor, her world shattering into pieces too small to ever put back together. Marcus gave her 1 week to leave. 7 days to pack up 7 years of marriage. Maya moved through the apartment like a sleepwalker, folding her clothes into 2 suitcases, the same suitcases she'd brought when she moved in as a hopeful bride. She had no money. Every dollar she'd saved had gone into Marcus's business, the business that was his alone now. No money, no home, no husband, no child. 7 years, and this was all she had to show for it. 2 suitcases of clothes and a heart broken into so many pieces, she didn't know if it would ever beat properly again. The night before she left, Maya walked through the apartment one final time. She ran her hand along the couch she'd saved 3 months to buy, looked at the kitchen where she'd cooked thousands of meals, stood in the doorway of the bedroom where she'd cried herself to sleep more nights than she could count. On the kitchen counter, she placed her wedding ring. The gold band caught the light one last time before she turned away. Her college friend Keisha lived across town in Decatur. The Uber ride felt endless. Maya sat in the back seat and cried the entire way, not even bothering to wipe her face. Let the driver stare. What did it matter now? Keisha was waiting at the door, arms already open. "Come here," she said simply, taking one of the heavy suitcases. "Come on in, sis." Keisha's apartment was small, 2 bedrooms and a modest complex, but it was offered with the kind of love Maya had forgotten existed. For 2 weeks, Maya barely spoke. She couldn't eat. Keisha's cooking, her soul food, her desserts, everything tasted like ash. Maya lost 10 pounds in 14 days, her clothes hanging loose on a frame that was already too thin. She would sit on the couch and stare at the TV for hours, not watching, not thinking, just empty. Keisha tried everything. She cooked, she prayed, she put on movies. She simply sat beside Maya in silence, a warm presence in the cold fog of depression. One night, unable to sleep, Maya walked out to the balcony. Keisha's apartment was on the 4th floor. From here, you could see the parking lot below, the asphalt, the parked cars, the hard ground. Maya gripped the railing and looked down. It would be so easy, so quick, an end to the shame, the pain, the crushing weight of failure. Don't even think about it. Keisha's voice cut through the darkness. Her hand closed around Maya's arm, firm and unyielding, pulling her back from the edge. "Don't you dare give him this too," Keisha said fiercely, dragging Maya inside and wrapping her arms around her. "That man has taken your money, your home, your peace, your 7 years. Don't you dare give him your life." Maya collapsed against her friend's shoulder, sobs finally breaking through the numbness. "I gave him everything, Keisha. Everything. I did everything right. And I'm nothing." Keisha held her tighter, rocking her gently. "You are not nothing," she whispered. "You hear me? You are not nothing. And tomorrow, we're going to prove it." In the darkness of that small apartment, held in the arms of the one person who hadn't abandoned her, Maya felt the tiniest spark. Not hope, exactly, but something. Something that whispered, maybe tomorrow. The next morning, Keisha shook Maya awake before sunrise. "Get up, we're going somewhere." Maya pulled the blanket over her head. "I don't want to, or what you want," Keisha said, yanking the covers off with zero sympathy. "You're coming with me." An hour later, they stood outside a community health clinic on Glenwood Avenue. A sign read, "Free Women's Health Services, Faith Hope Medical Center." "Keisha, I've been tested a dozen times." "Not here, you haven't," Keisha interrupted, pulling her through the door. "And not with the results that you keep in your hands." Inside, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and scrubs greeted them. "Keisha, you brought your friend?" "Yes, ma'am. Dr. Patricia, this is Maya, the one I told you about." Dr. Patricia Chen, a reproductive endocrinologist who volunteered at the clinic twice a week, took Maya's hands in hers, her touch warm and professional. "Sweetheart, you're welcome here. Come on back. Let's talk." Over the next 3 days, Dr. Chen ran a comprehensive battery of tests. Blood work, hormone panels, ultrasounds. She was thorough, gentle, and completely unhurried despite the stream of other patients waiting. On the 3rd day, she called Maya and Keisha into her small office. Dr. Chen smiled as she opened the folder on her desk. "Maya," she said gently, "there is absolutely nothing wrong with you." Maya blinked. "What?" "Your hormone levels are perfect. Your FSH, AMH, estrogen, all exactly where they should be for a woman your age. Your ovarian reserve is excellent. Your fallopian tubes are clear. Your uterine lining is healthy." She looked up from the papers, her smile widening. Honey, you are completely 100% fertile. The room tilted. But Maya's voice came out as a whisper. 7 years. 7 years, and nothing. Dr. Chen's expression softened with understanding. She'd clearly seen this before. Maya, was your husband ever tested? He refused. He said he didn't need to be. He said there was nothing wrong with him. Dr. Chen and Keisha exchanged a knowing look that spoke volumes. Sweetheart, Dr. Chen said carefully, leaning forward, I've been practicing reproductive medicine for 20 years, and I can tell you this. In my experience, the partner who refuses testing is very often the one with the fertility issue. The words landed like thunder. 7 years. 7 years of being called cursed, broken, defective, a burden. 7 years of shame that had carved itself into her bones, that had made her question her worth as a woman, as a wife, as a human being. 7 years of tears and prayers and desperate bargains with God, and it had never been her. Never. That bastard. Keisha exploded out of her chair, her voice echoing off the clinic walls. He knew! That lying, manipulative bastard knew, and he blamed you anyway. He took your money, called you cursed, threw you out, and he was the problem all along. Maya couldn't speak. Her hands were shaking, her whole body was shaking. She was crying, but these tears were different, hot and complicated, a confusing mixture of relief and rage, vindication and grief for all the years she'd spent believing the lie. Dr. Chen came around the desk and knelt beside Maya's chair, taking her trembling hands. Listen to me carefully, she said, her voice firm but full of compassion. You are not broken. You are never broken. You are fearfully and wonderfully made, exactly as God intended. Do you hear me? Maya nodded, unable to form words. What happens now is up to you, Dr. Chen continued. You can carry this pain, or you can choose to rebuild. But first, you need to understand this truth deep in your soul. You were never the problem. That evening, back in the apartment, Maya sat on the couch holding the test results in her hands like they were made of gold. Physical proof, undeniable evidence. She wasn't broken. Keisha sat beside her, calmer now, but still simmering with protective fury. You know what you need to do now? Keisha asked. Maya looked up, her eyes red, but somehow clearer than they'd been in weeks. What? You need to rebuild your life. Start fresh, and I have an idea. For the first time in 2 weeks, maybe in 7 years, Maya felt something shift inside her chest. It wasn't quite hope yet, but it was the beginning of something. The beginning of believing that maybe, just maybe, her story wasn't over. Maybe it was just beginning. Keisha's idea was both terrifying and perfect. My aunt, my mom's sister, she runs a small catering business out in Stone Mountain, Keisha explained, pulling out her phone to show photos. She's getting ready to retire, wants to sell the whole operation. The commercial kitchen lease, all the equipment, her client list, her recipes. She's asking $15,000 for everything. Maya's stomach dropped. Keisha, I don't have that kind of money. I don't have any money. I'll lend you $7,000. I've been saving. Keisha waved away her protest before it could form. And for the rest, we'll go to a credit union. You can cook, Maya. I've been eating your food since freshman year. You're amazing at it. This could work. I've never run a business. Neither had Marcus before he used your money to start his, Keisha said sharply. The difference is, you'll actually work for yours. 2 weeks later, Maya sat across from a loan officer at the South DeKalb Credit Union, her hands sweating as she presented the business plan she and Keisha had spent nights drafting. With Keisha's co-signature and a promise of her aunt's equipment and existing clients as collateral, the loan was approved. Maya walked out of that credit union with $8,000 and a terror so profound she could barely breathe. She'd just taken on debt, real debt. If this failed... "It won't fail," Keisha said firmly, reading her mind. "You won't let it." The first month was the hardest thing Maya had ever done. She woke at 4 a.m. to get to the DeKalb farmer's market before the best produce was gone. She learned to negotiate prices with vendors who could smell desperation. She cooked until her feet ached and her back screamed. She packed food into containers, loaded them into her Honda, and delivered them herself to offices and events across Metro Atlanta. She handled the books at night, teaching herself QuickBooks through YouTube videos, tracking every expense down to the penny. The first week, she made $900. After expenses, she had $200 profit. She cried that night. $200. Was this what her life had become? But the second week was better. $1,300 in sales. The third week, $1,800. Word was spreading. "Girl, who catered your baby shower? That mac and cheese was asterisk insane asterisk. Maya's kitchen. She's new, but honey, that woman can cook." By month 6, Maya was breaking even. By month 9, she was profitable enough to hire her first helper, a young woman named Jasmine who needed work and was willing to learn. By the 1-year mark, she had 2 assistants and had moved into a proper commercial kitchen space in Lithonia with professional-grade equipment and a small storefront. She was still exhausted, still grieving, still healing. But she was alive in a way she hadn't been in years. It was on a Saturday morning at the DeKalb farmer's market that everything changed again. Maya was loading sweet potatoes into her cart. She needed 20 pounds for a Thanksgiving catering order when someone's cart bumped into hers from behind. Her bags of greens tumbled out. "Oh man, I'm so sorry." A man was already crouching, gathering the scattered collard greens with quick, careful movements. "No, it's my fault," Maya said, kneeling to help. "I wasn't paying attention." She looked up. He was tall, with warm brown eyes and a smile that seemed genuinely apologetic rather than performative. He wore a simple Henley and jeans, nothing flashy. "I'm David," he said, handing her the last bunch of greens. "David Thompson. I own the barber shop over on Candler Road. Clean cuts." "Maya, I have a catering business." "Maya's Kitchen," he said, and at her surprised look, he laughed. "Everybody knows Maya's Kitchen. Your peach cobbler is legendary. My barbers order from you at least twice a week." They talked for maybe 5 minutes. He didn't ask invasive questions, didn't let his eyes wander, didn't make her uncomfortable. He was just easy, normal, kind. Over the following weeks, David seemed to appear everywhere. Ordering lunch from her storefront, stopping by with a broken clipper that needed an electrical outlet check, though it seemed to work fine, happening to be at the farmer's market on Saturday mornings when she shopped. Keisha noticed and began her merciless teasing. "That barber came by again. 4th time this week. Mighty hungry for a man with a 6-pack. "He's just a customer," Maya said, focusing very intently on seasoning her chicken. A customer who fixed your walk-in freezer for free and carried your 50-pound bags of rice from the car. He's just being nice." "Exactly. Keisha grinned. He's nice. You remember what nice looks like? Maya did remember, and that's what scared her. She wasn't ready, might never be ready. But David didn't push, he didn't demand, he didn't show up with expectations or requirements. He just showed up. 6 months of this quiet friendship passed. Then one evening, as Maya was closing the shop, David appeared in the doorway. "Maya," he said, his voice more serious than usual, "would you have dinner with me? A real dinner, not you packing food for me to take home. Just the two of us. Just dinner. No pressure. You can absolutely say no." She looked at this man who had never made her feel less than, who helped without being asked, who treated her like she had value beyond what she could give him. "Okay," she whispered, "just dinner." Dinner turned into a walk through Grant Park, watching the sunset. The walk turned into attending service together at his church in East Point the following Sunday. Slowly, carefully, like learning to use a muscle that had atrophied, Maya remembered what it felt like to be treated with gentleness. David asked about her dreams. He listened, actually listened, when she talked about expanding the business. He celebrated her small victories like they were major achievements. He never once asked why her marriage had ended, never pressed for details about her past. "When you're ready to share, I'll listen," he said simply. "But I'm not dating your past. I'm getting to know you, the woman you are right now." 1 year after their first official dinner, David proposed. They were at her commercial kitchen. She was elbow deep in buttercream frosting for a wedding cake order. He walked in, locked the door, and got down on one knee right there among the mixing bowls and cake pan. "Maya, I'm not perfect," he said quietly. "I snore. I leave my socks everywhere. I watch too much SportsCenter. But I promise you this. I will honor you every single day of my life. I will celebrate you. I will stand beside you, not above you. I will never make you feel small. Will you marry me?" Through tears, Maya whispered, "Yes." They married at the Fulton County Courthouse on a Wednesday afternoon. No big ceremony, no stress, no hundreds of guests. Just Keisha, David's parents, Dr. Chen, and her husband as witnesses, and a quiet joy that felt more real than any elaborate celebration could have been. 2 months later, Maya stared at the calendar in her kitchen. Her period was late. Her hand shook as she reached for her phone to call David. For the first time in her life, being late felt like a promise instead of a punishment. The ultrasound technician's eyes widened as she moved the probe across Maya's belly. "Mrs. Thompson," she said slowly, her voice carrying a strange mixture of professionalism and wonder. "There are 3 heartbeats." Maya's hand tightened around David's. 3. 3. The technician turned the screen so they could see. Triplets. 3 healthy babies. David made a sound somewhere between a laugh and a sob. He pressed his forehead against Maya's, both of them staring at the screen where 3 tiny forms pulsed with life. "God," Maya whispered. "God, you didn't just answer, you multiplied." The pregnancy was difficult. Carrying 3 babies demanded everything from her body. But David was there for every moment. Cooking when the smell of food made her nauseous, massaging her swollen feet at midnight, talking to her growing belly, telling his sons about the world they'd soon enter. 7 months later, at Northside Hospital, 3 boys came into the world within minutes of each other. Isaiah, Marcus, she reclaimed the name, gave it new meaning, and Elijah. when the nurse placed all three of them in her arms, an impossible, beautiful weight. Maya looked into their identical faces and understood something profound. God hadn't just vindicated her. He had given her abundance beyond anything she could have asked for. The years that followed were full in ways Maya had never imagined. Maya's kitchen expanded to 3 locations across Atlanta: Lithonia, College Park, and one in the new development in the Old Fourth Ward. She had 20 employees now, mostly women who needed a second chance, who worked hard and dreamed of something more. Black Enterprise featured her in their small business spotlight. From heartbreak to empire, one woman's recipe for success. David's barbershop chain grew as well. He'd opened 2 more locations and was mentoring young barbers through a program he'd started. They bought a house, not a mansion, but a beautiful 4-bedroom home in South Fulton with a big backyard where the boys could play and a gourmet kitchen where Maya could test new recipes. On their 3rd wedding anniversary, David presented her with keys. "What's this?" she asked, confused. "Come outside." Parked in their driveway was a white Rolls-Royce Phantom, gleaming in the afternoon sun like a dream made metal. Maya's hand flew to her mouth. "David, this is too much." "You deserve to ride like the queen you are," he said simply, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "You've built an empire with your own 2 hands. You've given me 3 beautiful sons. You inspire everyone around you. If anyone deserves to be celebrated, it's you." The triplets were 2 years old now, tiny tornadoes of energy and laughter, speaking full sentences, constantly getting into everything, and making every day an adventure. Life was full. Life was good. Life was finally, impossibly everything Maya had once stopped believing she could have. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon, a FedEx envelope arrived at the shop. Maya signed for the cream-colored envelope, expensive cardstock that felt important between her fingers. She opened it. Wedding invitation. Asterisk Marcus Williams and Shayla Robinson joyfully request your presence. Her hands went still. Inside, tucked with the formal invitation, was a handwritten note on matching stationery. "Maya, hope you can come celebrate with us. I know things ended badly, but I'm in a good place now. New chapter and all that. Would mean a lot if you could be there. Marcus." "What is it?" Keisha had walked up behind her, saw the invitation, and her face transformed into pure fury. "That snake!" she exploded, loud enough that customers looked over. "He wants you to come watch him play happy family with someone new? He wants to parade his new woman in front of you? The audacity." But Maya was quiet, reading the invitation again, then a 3rd time. That evening, when David came home from the shop, she showed him the invitation. He read it carefully, his expression unreadable. Then he looked at his wife with those gentle eyes that had never judged her. "What do you want to do?" Maya walked to the living room where Isaiah, Marcus, and Elijah were playing with Lego blocks, their laughter filling the house like music. She looked around at the home she owned, the successful business she'd built from nothing, the man who stood beside her as a true partner. She looked down at the invitation in her hands. "I want to go," she said quietly. Keisha made a sound of protest, but Maya continued. Not to hurt him, not even to prove anything to him, really, but to close that chapter properly. And maybe, she looked at her 3 sons, her living proof, maybe to let him see what God did with what he threw away. David stepped closer, his hand warm on her shoulder. Then we'll go. Keisha's fury melted into a slow, wicked smile. Well then, she said, cracking her knuckles like she was preparing for battle. If we're doing this, we're doing it right. The St. Regis Atlanta was the kind of place where money came to be photographed. Marble, everything. Crystal chandeliers that probably cost more than cars. Perfectly arranged floral displays that looked like they belonged in a museum. Cars lined up at valet, Mercedes S-Classes, Range Rovers with custom rims, Teslas in every color, BMWs still smelling like the showroom. Then the white Rolls-Royce Phantom arrived, gleaming like a pearl, chrome details catching the Atlanta sun like jewelry. The kind of vehicle that didn't just announce wealth, it commanded respect. The valets actually stopped mid-motion and stared. The driver, David had hired him specifically for this, complete with full chauffeur uniform, walked around to the passenger side with the precision of a ceremony. He opened the door. Maya emerged first. She wore an emerald green gown, designer label, the kind that photographed like a dream. Her diamond necklace wasn't cubic zirconia. It was the real thing, catching light with every breath. Her hair was laid, edges sharp, makeup absolutely flawless by a makeup artist who worked with celebrities. She looked like money, like success, like royalty. But it wasn't her appearance that made the hotel entrance fall silent. It was what came next. 3 little boys emerged from the car, one after another, like a reveal that kept giving. Isaiah, Marcus, Elijah. Identical in every way, the same dimples, the same bright eyes, the same adorable gap-toothed smiles. They wore matching white suits with emerald green bow ties that matched their mother's dress, their little dress shoes polished to perfection. They each took hold of their mother's dress, looking around at the fancy hotel with the wide-eyed wonder of 2-year-olds. The entrance didn't just go quiet. It went dead silent. A waiter froze with a tray of champagne glasses. A woman in a designer dress stopped mid-Instagram story. The jazz band's piano player hit a chord, and then nothing. And then the whispers started. Hold up. Is that? No way. That can't be. That is. That's Maya, Marcus's first wife. The one he divorced. The broke one. The one who couldn't have kids. That last phrase seemed to ricochet through the crowd as heads turned and phones came out. Because there she stood, this supposedly infertile woman with 3 identical sons. Triplets. Camera phones appeared. Instagram stories started recording. This was already becoming viral content. Inside the ballroom, someone sprinted to find the groom. Marcus was at the head table, looking sharp in his custom tuxedo, diamond cufflinks flashing, his expensive watch prominently displayed. He was laughing with his groomsmen, champagne in hand, the very picture of a successful man on his perfect day. "Yo, Marcus," his cousin whispered urgently in his ear. Your ex-wife just pulled up." His smile faltered slightly. "Maya? She actually came?" "Yeah, man. And bro, she's got kids with her. 3 little boys. They look like twins. No, wait, triplets, man." The champagne glass slipped from Marcus's hand. It hit the floor, shattered. Crystal and champagne spread across the marble like a prophecy of what was about to come. He stood so fast, his chair knocked backward. Maya was at the guest book now, calmly signing her name in elegant script, as if she were attending any ordinary wedding. David had arrived separately and stood nearby, protective but not hovering. He caught her eye and gave her a small nod. Asterisk. You got this. Marcus walked toward her like a man in a dream, moving through molasses, afraid this mirage would disappear. Maya? His voice came out strangled. She turned, and for just a flash, a microsecond, he saw the girl he'd married, the one who'd loved him completely, who'd believed in his dreams, who'd given him everything. Then the moment passed, and she was someone else entirely, someone beyond his reach. "Hello, Marcus," she said, her voice warm and polite. "Congratulations on your wedding." He couldn't take his eyes off the boys, who were now fascinated by the ice sculpture of swans near the entrance. "These," his mouth opened and closed like a fish. "These are my sons," Maya said, her smile widening with genuine maternal pride. "Isaiah, Marcus, and Elijah. Boys, come say hi." The triplets abandoned their ice swan investigation and trotted over obediently. "Hi," they said in chorus, waving with identical enthusiasm. Marcus looked like he'd been struck by lightning. "But we tried for 7 years." The guests nearby weren't even pretending not to listen now. They'd formed a loose circle, phones recording, ears sharp for every word. "Yes," Maya said, and her voice remained kind, but took on an edge of steel. 7 years you told me I was the problem. 7 years you blamed me for our childlessness. 7 years you made me believe I was broken. Maya, I didn't know. You never got tested, Marcus." Her voice cut through his excuse cleanly. "I begged you, multiple times. You refused every single time." His face flushed dark. The crowd's murmur grew louder. Maya continued, her voice still calm, still controlled, which somehow made it more devastating. "After our divorce, I went to a new doctor, different clinic. Do you know what they told me?" Marcus shook his head mutely. "That I was completely fertile. Perfect hormone levels, perfect ovarian reserve. Nothing wrong with me at all. Never had been." Gasps rippled through the assembled guests like a wave. Mrs. Williams had appeared from somewhere, her face frozen in horror as she understood what was being said in front of all these people. "And exactly 8 months after I remarried," Maya's voice rose slightly, clear enough for the back row to hear, "I got pregnant. Not just pregnant, triplets. 3 healthy, beautiful boys. First try." I thought," Marcus stammered. "You thought wrong." Maya reached into her elegant clutch, Chanel, a gift from David, and pulled out her iPhone. "You blamed me for your problem. And while we're discussing who did what, you took my money. $12,000 that I saved for 4 years. You built your electronics business with it, and then called it a gift when I asked for my share." The crowd's reaction was electric. Shocked gasps, angry murmurs. Someone said, "Oh, hell no," loud enough to be heard. He took her money? After calling her infertile? That's dirty as hell. Maya held up her phone. "I have the video, Marcus. The one where you called me your rock. Where you promised to make me your business partner. Want me to airdrop it to everyone here? I see a lot of people already recording." Marcus's hand shot out desperately. "Maya, please don't." "I also have my medical records," she continued, each word precisely placed, "showing perfect fertility, and I have bank statements showing the exact date and amount of that $12,000 withdrawal. Should we discuss this further, or should I let you enjoy your wedding?" "Marcus, what the hell is she talking about?" A new voice cut through the tension. The bride. Shayla appeared in her elaborate white dress, beautiful and noticeably pregnant. Maybe 4 or 5 months along, her belly gently rounded beneath the lace. She looked between her groom and his ex-wife, confusion and dawning horror on her face. "Marcus, what is this woman saying? You told me she was the one who couldn't have kids." Maya turned to Shayla, and her expression shifted to something like genuine compassion. "Congratulations on your pregnancy, sweetheart," she said kindly. "Truly, I hope for your sake that the baby is—" She paused delicately. "His? My only advice? Get a paternity test, and maybe have him get a fertility test, too, just to be absolutely sure about everything." The implication detonated. The ballroom erupted. Gasps, shouts. Someone screamed, "Oh my God!" Mrs. Williams clutched her chest, her eyes rolling back. "Jesus!" she cried out, and then she collapsed. She actually fainted, dropping in a heap of expensive fabric and jewelry. Two relatives rushed to her, fanning frantically, someone yelling for water. Shayla was crying now, mascara running, looking at Marcus with complete betrayal written across her face. "Did you lie to me? About everything? Were you the one who—" Chaos bloomed like wildfire. Maya bent down and picked up Elijah, who was getting overwhelmed by all the noise and commotion. "I think we should go," she said calmly, settling her son on her hip. "Come on, boys." Isaiah and young Marcus took her hands immediately. David materialized at her side, his hand settling protectively on the small of her back. They walked toward the exit. The crowd parted like the Red Sea. Some people were staring in shock. Some were openly recording. Some were whispering so loud it was basically shouting. But some were clapping. A few women first, softly, then louder, then more women joined, then a few men. One older black woman in a gorgeous purple dress reached out and touched Maya's arm as she passed. "Baby girl," she said, her eyes bright with tears. "God did this for you. God did this." Maya smiled at her. "Yes, ma'am, he did." At the doorway, Maya paused. She turned back one last time. Marcus stood in the wreckage of his perfect wedding, his bride sobbing, his mother unconscious on the floor being fanned by relatives, his guests recording his humiliation for social media, his secrets exposed, his lies unraveled in real time. Their eyes met across the chaotic distance. Maya didn't smile cruelly, didn't gloat, didn't throw up a peace sign, or do anything petty. She simply nodded once. Acknowledgement, closure, goodbye. Then she turned and walked out into the Atlanta sunshine, her sons already asking about ice cream, her husband's steady presence beside her, and her head held impossibly high. Behind her, she left nothing but truth. Ahead of her, everything that mattered. In the Rolls-Royce heading back to their hotel, David asked gently, "How you feeling, baby?" Maya was quiet for a moment, watching her 3 sons already dozing off in their car seats, their little bow ties crooked, their faces peaceful. "Free," she finally said. "I feel completely free." Over the following weeks, the story spread across Black Twitter like wildfire. Someone's video from the wedding went absolutely viral, over 1 million views in 5 days. The Shade Room picked it up. Blogs everywhere ran with it. Ex-wife shows up to wedding with triplets after being called infertile. You won't believe what happened. The internet had a field day. Marcus's electronics business took a serious hit. Several corporate clients quietly canceled their contracts. Nobody wanted to be associated with a man who'd stolen from his wife and blamed her for his own issues. The wedding became Atlanta legend. People referenced it in barbershops, hair salons, group chats. As for Shayla, word on the street was she canceled the wedding immediately and demanded Marcus get tested. The results, apparently, confirmed exactly what Maya had suggested. The relationship ended within a month. Some people said Shayla's baby wasn't even his to begin with. Mrs. Williams, who had spent 7 years calling Maya cursed and worthless, was reportedly now a regular at her church's altar, asking God for forgiveness. But Maya didn't follow these updates closely. She was too busy living. Back home, Maya's kitchen continued to thrive. She was now in talks with Whole Foods about her spice blend line. She'd been invited to speak at the Essence Festival. Her story was inspiring women across the country. One evening, as she put the boys to bed, Isaiah looked up at her with those thoughtful eyes. "Mommy, why was that man at the party so sad?" Maya smoothed his hair back, choosing her words carefully. "Because, sweetheart, he learned an important lesson too late. He learned that you should never blame someone else for your own mistakes, and you should never, ever underestimate the power of a woman who knows her worth." "What's worth mean?" Elijah asked sleepily. "Worth means knowing how special you are, how valuable, how deeply loved by God, no matter what anyone says about you." She kissed each of their foreheads, breathing in that sweet baby smell she'd once thought she'd never experience. In the living room, David was watching SportsCenter with the volume low. Maya sat beside him, and he automatically put his arm around her. "Any regrets?" he asked. "About going?" She considered seriously. "No, I needed to face that part of my past. Not to punish him, though I won't lie, his face was priceless, but to prove to myself that I survived. More than that, I thrived." She looked around their home, at the photos of their family, at the life they'd built. "God took what Marcus meant to destroy me and turned it into my foundation," she said softly. "Every tear I cried watered seeds I didn't even know were being planted. Those 7 years weren't wasted. They were preparation for this. Asterisk, asterisk. Now, let me ask you something. Asterisk, asterisk. Have you ever been blamed for something that wasn't your fault? Have you ever given everything to someone who gave you nothing in return? Have you ever been called broken? Not just physically, but told you were somehow less than, defective, not enough? If you have, I need you to hear this. You are not what they called you. You are what God calls you. Sometimes the person who breaks you is just clearing space for God to build something magnificent. Sometimes your deepest pain is preparation for your greatest purpose. Maya thought she was worthless. Marcus told her she was defective. His mother called her cursed. Society labeled her a failure. But God said, "Watch what I'm about to do." And he gave her triplets, a thriving business empire, a loving husband who cherishes her, a life overflowing with abundance. Not because she was perfect, but because she was his. Asterisk, asterisk. Now I want to hear from you. Asterisk, asterisk. What would you have done in Maya's situation? Would you have gone to that wedding? Or would you have ignored the invitation and moved on quietly? Drop your answer in the comments below. I read every single one, and I genuinely love hearing your perspectives. And tell me, where are you watching this from? Atlanta, Houston, LA, Chicago, DC, New York, London? Let me know your city or state in the comments. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of your own journey, or if you know someone who needs to hear this message, do 3 things for me. 1, Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a story of redemption, resilience, and divine justice. 2. Give this video a thumbs up. It really helps more people find these stories. 3. Share this with someone who needs to be reminded that their comeback is coming. Tag them. Send them the link. Let them know they're not alone. Remember this: what God has for you is for you. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. Your haters may throw a party, but God is planning your parade. The people who underestimated you, they're about to become your testimony. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Thank you for letting me share Maya's story with you. I'll see you in the next story. Until then, stay blessed, stay strong, stay faithful, and never, ever let anyone convince you that you're less than the royalty you were created to be.